Alright, guys. Welcome to the third episode of the Intersect Project podcast. I'm your host, Paul, and I will be taking you on a trip through the episode of Chuck versus the Tango, which we will be discussing today. To begin the podcast, I'd like to thank everybody who's listened to the first two episodes so far. We've almost got 50 downloads as of this recording. It'll be 50 later when this one's downloaded for you guys. So thank you for that. I want to get some house cleaning tips out of the way. I am starting back to school tomorrow, college, so it's going to be a rough schedule of the podcast. I don't know when or exactly I can post. Like to this week, I didn't think I would be able to get a podcast up, but hopefully and willing, it will be up by Monday. If hopefully nothing goes wrong, so I can get that out Monday. But next stuff, I would like to point you guys in the direction of chuckaholics.com, where I have recently become an author on that website. I don't think the only article I have is my introduction article, my little bio article, but maybe I'll try and write a couple this semester. So go check chuckaholics.com out. Don't go for me. Go because it's a great website with a bunch of other great authors. Especially, there's been a lot of people at it, and they're all fantastic Chuck fans. So go ahead and head on over there. Alright, so let's delve right into the episode at hand. Chuck versus the Tango. And it's called Chuck versus the Tango because he must learn the tango. And he must learn the tango because no one actually needs to know. He doesn't actually need to know the tango. He has no. It serves a purpose, obviously, later, because it helps him identify lost you dad, but it's not useful. It was just a joke by John Casey. One of the few jokes by John Casey. He's not very jokey. He's a one-liner character, like when he hit Yuri the Gobbler with. Oh, I guess that's technically a spoiler, but the name doesn't spoil you anything. But that's the bad guy's name. When he hits him with the microwave, he goes, "Now that's how." I forget what he says exactly, but what he says after that is basically John Casey's humor. It's just quip one-liners, and so anyway, there's John Casey's humor and why it's called Chuck versus the Tango. And I'll delve into the tango later. But first off, I'd like to just note that this is a big episode of firsts. It's a lot of firsts. You got the first mention of Chuck's future without the buy more. And for you newbies, this is a very big theme going on throughout the rest of the show. It's a big part of the show. Not really trying to spoil anything for you, but just giving you a heads up that it's a big theme in the show. And it's your first introduction to Charles Carmichael, big character in the show. So that's the first of that. First mission for Chuck, first official mission. He's had missions, but they're not official sanctioned missions by Beckman. So his first mission, and finally you have the first time Team Bartowski works together, like as a cohesive unit. So that's nice. It's a good episode if you like Team Bartowski working together, just because it's just constantly them doing stuff, and kicking major ass, taking names, stuff like that. Sorry if my voice is a little off. I've got kind of stuffed up today, so my voice is going to be a little off. And alright, so there's that. Sorry, I'm trying to get back off my tangent and back onto the episode at hand. So let's go ahead and talk about Chuck's future without the buy more. He talked about it a little bit in this episode. He's talking to Ellie and he's talking to Sarah and he's like, but I can't be a spy. who's gonna know about it? I have to go back to the buy more. And it's like, she's like, well, you'll know about it. And that's the most important part about this, is that it's not about everybody knowing that you're a hero. It's that what you're doing is you're help saving lives. You're not doing it for, I guess, your own benefit. You're doing it for those around you, to help them, get better, to help keep them safe. At least, Morgan, Ellie, awesome, stuff like that. So I mean, there's that I think illustrates best how Sarah feels, at least in this first season, toward Chuck. It's like she's, maybe the second season too. I mean, spoiler alert, but I mean, it's more of a, hey, this is how she feels towards him. She wants to pick him up while he tries to put himself down. So at times, so she's trying to pick him up. And then we have the introduction to Charles Carmichael, software development spy man, and it's a good character. You'll see in later seasons how good of a character he is. And we'll delve into Chuck's first official mission. Now, his first official mission. It's a big deal, especially because he didn't think he was actually supposed to do anything. So I mean, it's just like, how can he help? He's never been a spy before, and he's never tried to do anything like this before. How can he help? And they're trying to use that intersect in his brain. So it's really that which pulls him into this spy life, is the intersect. It's his ability to possibly see something, pinpoint, lock onto something, and he flashes, and he can pull up villains. I guess villains. It seems like that's more of like a superhero thing. I'd say more bad guys, evil people with henchmen, usually. Most of the time, it's usually with henchmen. But anyway, so I mean, he could find something, walk onto it, use that picture in his brain, and pull out tons of information, which could help them on a mission. So I mean, that's really why they bring him in. It's just his ability to see what others can't see, in a way, at least. So I mean, that's what brings him in. So they decide to use him. All you gotta do is identify the loss of your dad. Bad thing is, no one's ever seen loss of your dad before. And how is he supposed to see it? Well, he's just supposed to go to the art gallery and hope for the best. So, obviously, what happens? He mistakenly IDs Lassie Dad on his first mission. Messes up. And to be fair, what he flashed on would make almost everybody assume that man was Lassie Dad instead of MI6. So, I mean, that's the problem there. But you think there'd be some better communication between MI6 and the US government, or the CIA or the NSA or something like that. I mean, come on. If you're tracking a dangerous murderer like La Ciudad, you'd think you would at least inform the government of the country you were in. I don't know why they didn't. That's a big mix-up that could humongously be avoided if they if they had just talked it out, told somebody about it. So that happens. Sarah and Casey and Chuck mistakenly identify MI6 agents as La Ciudad, which allows La Ciudad to capture Chuck, because she thinks he holds the frame with the plutonium in it. Plutonium, uranium, I think. I can't remember really what it is, but she does think he has it. So she takes Chuck, or Charles Carmichael. If you didn't know, I did air quotations because it's just a nickname. It's not really him, but he is Charles Carmichael. Hostage, and holds him ransom so she can figure out where this picture frame is, and it's a good one. I Let's see you, Dad. Like last episode, she's a good filler baddie. I would say probably better than Doctor Zarno, just because Doctor Zarno was just he was a CIA doctor, but he was a rogue, treasonous CIA doctor. So I mean, he was just kind of like a easy, quick filler bad guy. But this one was good. An art thief, not really an art thief, but a mass murderer. This is when the bad guys start getting really good. This is definitely when the bad guys start getting really good. But anyway, so I mean, she could be better, yeah, but she could be worse. Anyway, so Lassie Dad captures him, and then Casey and Sarah obviously save the day, working together, shoot up the hotel room. So, and I guess, does the CIA foot that bill? Because that's a lot of damage. I mean, that's not minuscule amounts of damage. That's a ton of bullet holes, broken glass, and stuff. So, I mean, I guess the CIA does it, foots the bill, pays for it all. I mean, I would hope so, because they're the ones technically, while La Ciudad's henchmen were shooting back at them, I mean, they did cause most of the damage. But anyway, he got away, and La Ciudad got away through Chuck's former roommate, not former roommate, but former college pal, I guess. They didn't seem like they were friends, just acquaintances, but former acquaintances at Stanford's room. And he says my favorite line of the whole show, just because he says it in a weird way. Shelly, they know about the Caymans. The Caymans. Oh man, his whole like mini story arc is just so funny. He's old pal of Chuck's from Stanford, and he's sold his company a lot of money. And he says, I'm too rich to work, but I'm too young to retire. And that's the good snooty response. And then Chuck flashes on him, and it's like, oh yeah, so he got there by insider trading and offshore illegal investment accounts. Yeah, okay, yeah, that seems right. And him flipping out with his wife, I'm assuming it's his wife Shelly, just flipping out. Him just like, they know about the Caymans, the Caymans. I don't know why it made me laugh so hard, but it was a good one. It was funny. And so, and then La Ciudad obviously comes back, tries to get Chuck again at the Buy More. And yeah, if this is not really a spoiler, because it's not really a spoiler. I don't think it's a spoiler for you newbies, but as most seasoned Chucksters know, the Buy More bad guys coming back to try and kill Chuck in the Buy More, that happens a lot. Many episodes are bad guys trying to kill Chuck in the Buy More. So the Buy More, for you new guys, the Buy More is not just a small setting that's where Chuck works, and then he goes and he does the spy place at other places. The Buy More is a huge place. It's a very big setting. It's a very big and integral part of the TV show. Without Buy More, this show would not be anywhere close to what it is today. Without the Buy More, we wouldn't have half the great stories we have in Chuck. So I mean, it's a very, very important place. So for all you newbies out there, look forward to great adventures with the Buy More, because they're going to keep coming, and they're going to last. They're fun. So just keep an eye out for that. So yeah, obviously, La Ciudad and her henchmen try and get Chuck at the Buy More, and they fail because Team Bartasky, when working together as a unit, is the best spy team in the world. And I don't feel bad saying that. I fully think that because when they work together and when they all gel together, they're the best spy team in the world. They're better than everyone else. So that's how I feel about that. Now, like I said, this is an episode of a first. This is definitely the theme of this episode. It's the first of all of Chuck's big things. The first two episodes were, I guess, really an introduction into the show, but this episode is really the first true episode of what the show really is. Or that's what I'd say, because the structure of this episode is basically the structure of the rest of the episodes, where Team Bartowski told to do a mission, go out, kick some ass, come back, celebrate, go back, get ready again. That's a main part of this show is just showing them saving the world. So I mean, this is, for all intents and purposes, this is the first true episode of Chuck, I guess is what I would call it, because it's one of my favorites. It's a good one, and so I mean, it's got a lot of significance to it, is what I'll say. Now, back to Chuck being the female lead. That whole sequence when Devin was teaching him the tango was probably one of the funniest things I have seen in a while. It's just a shirtless Devin in a towel teaching Chuck the tango. Not the man's part of the tango. He's doing all the female parts of the tango. So, I mean, it's great physical comedy. It's well written. I'd say it was put in there and it's funny. And then having La Ciudad be a woman and Chuck having the female part of the tango, watching them gel together, it was perfectly funny. Now, I'm going to introduce a little segment I like to call the hit of the episode. And the hit of the episode is really just me telling you my favorite part of one of them knocking the bad guy out. And this week's podcast episode's hit of the week is obviously John Casey, Adam Baldwin's character, throwing the microwave into Yuri the Gobbler's face and just demolishing him. Now, for non-Chucksters, for newbies, this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm not going to give anything away with it that will matter. So you can listen to this part and you won't be affected. But for your Chucksters, I think that was where that fake eye came from. I really do think that's where Yuri the Gobbler's fake eye came from. So that's obviously my hit of the episode, because it's obviously the most badass hit. And okay, first off, sorry for cursing. I don't really consider ass much of a curse word. So I mean, if you're offended by it, I'm sorry. And I try not to use it, because I mean, using curse words doesn't really get you far. But sometimes it's the only way to express how I feel about Team Bartowski, because they kick ass. And sometimes I'm going to say it, because that's how I feel. So I apologize if I offend you by saying ass. Tangent over. Anyway, John Casey, you have won this week's episode of Hit of the Week. And I'm actually going to try and keep a tally so I can give you like a score update. So by the end of the series, or we'll try end of the season. Every end of the season, I'll tally up the hit count. And whoever wins, I'll announce the winner. I'll say, hey, this was the winner of the season for our hit count. And then at the end of the series, we'll have a big winner. But it's like, whose line is it anyway? The points are made up. They don't matter. Except in our hearts. They matter in our hearts. Alright, guys. That about does it for this episode. I'm sorry it's kind of a short episode, but I've been busy the past couple of days. And next week's episode will probably be pretty short. Probably about this length too. Because I'm going to be pretty busy this week and this weekend. So, sorry for the length. I wish I could sit here for hours and talk about Chuck. I could if I had the time, but I don't. So I'm going to give you guys about 20 minutes. So here's a little cleaning tip. First off, I would like to say that my partner in crime, my second guest host, is getting his mic currently, so he can help in the podcast. Throughout this fall semester until probably December-ish, he will be sporadically joining the podcast, and he'll just be sitting in on some episodes, and we'll talk, and maybe those episodes will be longer. Who knows? I feel like back and forth banter will help. So, I mean, who knows? But he has asked me to call him the Bearded Bandit on the podcast, which Chucksters will know from season 5. It's a good nickname. I'll give him that. It's a good nickname. So I'm gonna call him the Bearded Bandit. My partner in crime will be the Bearded Bandit, and he'll be on. Like I said, he'll be on a couple. He'll be sporadically on the podcast until around late December, January-ish, and then he will probably most likely become a permanent member on the podcast. So there's that. And then last but not least, I'd like to say thank you for everybody who's listened once again. And I hope you are enjoying the podcast. I'm enjoying doing them and connecting with the fans of Chuck on Twitter. If you don't know, I'm on Twitter. The podcast has a Twitter account, the Intersect Project, at Chuck Rewatch 33. If you want to follow, I'm enjoying a lot of the back and forth with the fans. There's a lot of great Chuck fans out there, and I love giving you guys shout outs because you're awesome. You're always awesome. Never had a bad experience with you guys. And then I would like to thank Chuckaholics.com for allowing me and a bunch of other great authors to contribute to the website, where also you can get together and watch great Chuck, or read great Chuck content. The head guy over at Chuckaholics, Chris, he is actually doing a rewatch article list every week, which is a lot of fun to read. I read them every week. He's a great writer. I read them every week. So go after you listen to the podcast or before you listen to the podcast. Go read his rewatch article, because we're doing these separately, so we're going to have differing ideas, but we're both correct. That's right, I said it. We're both correct. But anyway, like I said, go ahead and go to that website and give it a listen. And also, obviously, check out the nerdmachine.com. It's got a lot of great content for us nerds out there. So once again, guys, I'd like to thank you for listening. If you would, leave a review on iTunes. So I'll read those. I'll read everything. And then I guess, like I said, follow me on Twitter, the Intersect Project. It's at Chuck Rewatch 33, capital C on Chuck. And I will talk to you guys later. Over and out, Chucksters.